You don't think about them in your day-to-day life. They're just there, somewhere deep inside, working in silence. And yet, they are the ones that can decide your mood, your immunity, your appetite, whether you wake up full of energy or with that vague sense that something feels off. Your intestines. An organ that, in theory, was only meant to digest food, but in reality behaves like an independent command center running your entire body. It all starts innocently, in the mouth. You bite, you grind, you mix. This is where food first meets the enzymes that begin breaking it down into its smallest parts. Before you even swallow, your body is already at work. Then the esophagus. Just transport, nothing philosophical. Muscles contract rhythmically, driving each bite toward the stomach, where the first real battle begins. The stomach is acid, fire, and a chemical mill. Proteins are torn apart here. Food liquefies into a thick, soupy mass. And then you enter the place where the real story begins. The small intestine. This is where basic digestion ends and transformation begins. The small intestine is one of the hardest working organs in the entire body. Meter after meter of folded, coiled surface that absorbs everything meant to keep you alive. Carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, almost everything you need passes through here. But the true theater happens further down, the large intestine, a place where whatever hasn't been absorbed meets billions of bacteria. They decide whether your body will function smoothly, calmly, efficiently, or whether it will erupt into inflammation, bloating, immune problems, or mood disturbances. The large intestine is the command center of the microbiome and the part of the digestive system that most powerfully shapes your emotional balance, your hormones, your stability. And then the rectum, the final stage, no mystery. Whatever the body doesn't need gets expelled. But when you take a step back, you see something important. The entire digestive journey exists mostly to let the intestines do their job. The stomach breaks things down. Enzymes prepare. The esophagus transports. But the intestines decide what stays and what goes. What enters the bloodstream and what gets discarded. What fuels you and what steals your health. The intestines are the system of sorting, filtering, and communicating with the rest of your body. They're far more than a digestive organ. They are the command center of your biology. The small intestine is where simple digestion ends and the biochemistry of life begins. Despite being only a few meters long, it's so precisely engineered that no human-made system can match its efficiency. It has 3 sections: the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. But the names matter far less than the miracles happening inside them. In the duodenum, food meets its first true test. Pancreatic enzymes, bile, and stomach acids collide here. And while it sounds chaotic, it's one of the most finely tuned chemical reactions in your body. The duodenum spreads enzymes, neutralizes acid, and prepares every particle for absorption. It's a laboratory working in fractions of a second. Next is the jejunum, the center of absorption. This isn't just taking in proteins or fats. This is where your body is literally built. Every amino acid, every gram of glucose, every molecule of vitamins passes through the intestinal wall into your bloodstream and becomes muscle, brain cells, hormones, energy. The jejunum is like a recruitment process. From everything you eat, it chooses what's worth turning into you. And finally, the ileum, the last, most selective guardian. This is where the rarest nutrients are absorbed. Vitamin B12, bile salts, essential fats, compounds your body absolutely cannot afford to waste. It's the veteran worker of the small intestine, the one that knows what you need even when you don't. The entire small intestine is lined with structures that look like a microscopic forest, villi. Each villus is covered with even smaller microvilli. Together, they create an absorbing surface larger than a tennis court. Without them, digestion would be like trying to collect rain with your bare hands. You'd catch a little, but most of it would be lost. The small intestine works like a perfect filter. Nothing passes through accidentally. This is where food becomes energy, building blocks, and fuel for every cell. And although it works silently, continuously, and completely outside your awareness, its role is pivotal. When something goes wrong in the small intestine, something goes wrong everywhere else. It is, quite literally, the place where your health begins. And then there's the large intestine, a stage most people underestimate because they think of it as just the end of digestion. But that's a mistake. The large intestine is more like a massive processing hall where sorting, recycling, organizing, and quality control take place. This is where the body recovers everything it cannot afford to lose: water, electrolytes, the last remaining nutrients, and closes a process that began hours earlier in the mouth. It starts in the cecum, where material from the small intestine first arrives. At this point, the contents are warm, fluid, rich in undigested fibers. The cecum begins thickening and slowly pushing everything onward. And attached to it, like a tiny guardian bunker, is the appendix, a small but evolutionarily important reservoir for protective bacteria. More on that in the microbiome chapter. From there, everything moves into the colon, the longest section of the large intestine. This is the expert of recovery. The colon draws water and electrolytes out of the remaining mass, regulating hydration throughout the entire body. It's a more delicate process than it appears. Too fast, and water escapes too quickly, causing diarrhea. Too slow, and the mass dries out, hardens, and blocks the bowels for days. Next is the sigmoid colon, twisted like a coiled road. A kind of transitional warehouse. It holds the thickened material and waits for the signal. It's time. When everything runs smoothly, the sigmoid stays quiet and efficient. But when passage slows, problems begin: bloating, heaviness, nausea, pain radiating into the lower back. The mass sits too long, becomes too dense, and the sigmoid must manage something it was never meant to store for that long. Finally, the rectum, the last stop. Here the body decides whether the moment is right to let go. The rectum works as a sensor and buffer. It must detect texture, volume, and pressure. When the mass is too hard, the muscles strain, pushing with more force, leading to hemorrhoids, fissures, chronic pain. When it's too liquid, the rectum can't hold it, leading to sudden urges and loss of control. The entire function of the large intestine depends on the pace of its passage. If it slows by a few hours, you feel discomfort. If it slows by a few days, your body begins to literally poison itself with fermentation byproducts. And if it slows regularly, it echoes through your skin, your liver, your mood, even your immunity. The large intestine is not the body's trash bin. It's a precise system of recovery, shaping, and regulation. And only when it begins to work too slowly do you realize that this supposedly final section is actually one of the most influential parts of your digestive system. Your intestines live in their own rhythm, but they're no isolated island. They're one of the most richly supplied and densely innervated regions in your body. And although they work automatically, their function depends on two powerful systems: blood and nerves. Once you understand how they're connected, you understand why intestinal disturbances ripple through your entire body and even through your mind. The intestines are governed primarily by the autonomic nervous system, the same network that decides whether your heart speeds up when you run or whether your pupils widen when you're afraid. But when it comes to the intestines, it works with extraordinary precision. Sympathetic nerves can slow their movement, mute their activity, narrow their vessels when you're under stress. That's why your stomach tightens, why you lose your appetite, or digestion suddenly halts the moment you feel threatened. Parasympathetic nerves, especially the powerful vagus nerve, do the opposite. They switch your intestines into regeneration mode, increasing blood flow, stimulating contractions, improving secretion of digestive juices. And here comes something fascinating. The intestines contain such a vast network of neurons that it's called the enteric nervous system, a miniature autonomous command center. More on that later. For now, what matters is this. The intestines receive signals from the brain, but they constantly send signals back. The communication is non-stop and instantaneous, like a conversation between two co-workers who can read each other's minds. The second key element is the portal circulation, a system of blood vessels that works like a massive highway for everything absorbed in the intestines. All the blood that collects nutrients from the small intestine and remnants from the large intestine flows first into the liver, long before it reaches the rest of your body. It's a border checkpoint. The liver decides what gets through, what gets neutralized, what must be stopped. If the intestines let too many unwanted compounds slip by, because their barrier is weakened, the liver becomes overloaded, and that's where the first consequences appear. But this rich blood supply comes with a price. When stress becomes chronic, intestinal vessels constrict, blood flow drops, and the mucosal lining loses its ability to regenerate. It can become more permeable, more prone to inflammation, more reactive to foods that never bothered you before. That's why long-term tension affects digestion much faster than most people realize. And this leads straight into a topic you simply cannot avoid: the gut-brain axis. Not a metaphor. A real, anatomical, hormonal, electrical communication network. The brain influences the gut, and the gut influences the brain, sometimes even more strongly than the brain influences the gut. Because of this axis, you can feel butterflies in your stomach, disgust, fear, but also calm, sleepiness, or a sudden surge of energy. The intestines warn the brain when something is wrong. The brain responds with tension, changes in rhythm, contractions or their absence. This dialogue lasts your entire life, and only when you understand how intense it is do you stop seeing your intestines as a simple tube and begin to see them as an organ that co-creates your emotions, your focus, and your mental resilience. Your intestines are not open to everything. Quite the opposite. They operate like a heavily guarded fortress. Every spoonful of food, every sip of liquid, even the bacteria and air you swallow without noticing, all encounter a protective system whose main job is to say, "You may enter, you may not." The first line of defense is the intestinal mucosa, a thin but incredibly active layer of cells that not only shields you from physical damage by food, but also secretes antimicrobial substances and digestive enzymes. Imagine it as an invisible mesh. Nutrients and water pass through. Everything potentially harmful is stopped or neutralized. One of the most important mechanisms of this defense are the tight junctions, microscopic locks between the epithelial cells. They decide what can pass through the intestinal wall and what cannot. When they work properly, the intestines are selective, intelligent, nearly flawless. Thanks to them, nutrients flow into your blood, while bacteria, toxins, and undigested particles stay out. The term leaky gut made its way into media and pop science. It sounds dramatic, as if the intestines suddenly open wide and allow toxins to flood the bloodstream. In reality, scientists describe something far more subtle. Tiny microscopic changes in the tight junctions that allow certain molecules, normally blocked, to slip through. It's not a disaster. It's a mild weakening of defenses that the body can often repair, provided conditions improve. The mucosa and tight junctions work in constant dialogue with the microbiome, the immune system, and blood flow. Any imbalance, stress, low-fiber diet, toxins, medication, can weaken this barrier, increasing the risk of inflammation, bloating, or issues with nutrient absorption. But when the barrier works well, the intestines remain a powerful, almost invisible shield that protects you every day from dangers you never even think about. Thanks to this protective layer, your body can draw the richness of nutrients without absorbing everything random and harmful. The mucosa is the first guardian, tight junctions the invisible locks that keep the selection flawless. Only when this protection weakens does the real struggle begin. A struggle most people feel only as discomfort, bloating, or inflammation. The intestinal barrier is not just a physical wall. It is a detection, selection, and adaptation system that shapes the health of your whole body and shapes the way your second brain in your belly communicates with you each day. Your intestines are not passive. They don't wait for food to pass through at its own pace. Every bite, every drop of liquid, every strand of fiber is moved with rhythm and intention, even though you never feel it. This is motility, the coordinated movement of smooth muscles that push, mix, and prepare everything for absorption. The most famous movement is peristalsis, a wave of contractions that pushes intestinal contents toward the rectum. Picture it as a living wave rolling along the intestine, pressing, kneading, compelling everything to move forward. Without peristalsis, food would stagnate, fermentation would explode, bloating would intensify, and your body would quickly sound the alarm. But the intestines do more than propel. Segmental movements work locally, dividing the contents into smaller parts and mixing them in place. This gives enzymes time to break nutrients down completely and allows villi to absorb the maximum. Segmental activity keeps the pace slow enough that nothing essential is skipped. It's a delicate balance between movement and time, as if the intestines instinctively knew how long to hold and when to release. Behind all of this stands the enteric nervous system, ENS, an autonomous network that operates independently of your awareness, regulating the rhythm and power of contractions. It senses stretch, chemistry, hormones, and signals from the rest of your body, adjusting peristalsis and segmentation to whatever is actually inside the gut at any given moment. But intestines don't exist in isolation. Stress profoundly affects motility. When you're under pressure, the sympathetic system takes over. Motility slows, contents stagnate, bloating builds, enzymes become less efficient. In some people, the reaction is reversed. The intestines speed up, causing sudden urgency and diarrhea. It's one of the invisible but very real ways your mind shapes your body. Chronic stress can disrupt motility so significantly that everyday digestion becomes a constant challenge. Intestinal motility is not just about moving food forward. It is an intelligent, dynamic system that mixes, sorts, regulates pace, and reacts to emotion. When it works well, you barely notice it. When something is off, you feel it instantly, as bloating, pain, constipation, or diarrhea. The movement of your intestines is like a quiet rhythm of life in your abdomen, deciding how well your body uses what you eat and how it responds to the stress of everyday life. When food enters the small intestine, it is no longer just food. It is raw material, ready for processing. This is where enzymes step in, invisible chemical workers breaking large molecules into forms the body can use. The first station is the set of enzymes produced by the pancreas. This organ works like a factory of versatile tools. It produces proteases that cut proteins into amino acids, lipases that break fats into fatty acids and glycerol, and amylases that continue the breakdown of carbohydrates that started in your mouth. Thanks to these enzymes, no protein, fat, or carbohydrate remains untouched. Everything is reduced to a form your cells can use. We cannot forget about bile, which reaches the duodenum directly from the liver and gallbladder. Bile does not digest food by itself, but it emulsifies fats into microscopic droplets, allowing lipases to work efficiently. Without bile, fats would stay too dense for the body to absorb. It's like creating an emulsion in cooking. Without proper mixing, the ingredients won't combine, and the energy remains trapped. The small intestine is also equipped with enzymes built into its own mucosa. They finalize the breakdown of carbohydrates into simple sugars, convert protein fragments into amino acids, and prepare fat components for transport in the form of micelles. Every epithelial cell acts as a tiny laboratory, completing the process with precision. The result is simple, yet brilliant. Proteins become amino acids, fats become fatty acids and glycerol, carbohydrates become glucose, all ready for absorption. What just hours ago was a meal is now fuel, building material, and signaling substance for the entire body. This process works quietly, almost invisibly, yet it is absolutely essential. Without the precise action of the pancreas, bile, and intestinal enzymes, even the healthiest diet would fail to supply the energy and nutrients the body needs. Digestion in the small intestine is not just chemistry. It is an orchestration of cooperating organs, enzymes, and mucosal cells that turn food into life. Once food has been broken down by enzymes, the most important moment begins: absorption. Here, what moments ago was a mixture of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates becomes the fuel your body depends on. The small intestine is not a simple tube. It is an intricate network that decides what enters the body and what remains inside the gut. Proteins, now reduced to amino acids and short peptides, cross the intestinal epithelial membrane. Intestinal cells act like selective gates, allowing in exactly the molecules the body needs and blocking those that could cause harm. The amino acids enter the bloodstream, becoming building blocks for muscles, enzymes, hormones, and neurotransmitters. Carbohydrates, simple sugars like glucose, fructose, and galactose, pass through the intestinal wall and instantly join the body's energy pathways. They are transported to the liver, where they can become immediate energy or be stored as glycogen. Thanks to this, your brain, muscles, and organs have a steady supply of the fuel that powers everything you do. Fats require a different approach. After being emulsified by bile and broken down by lipases, they form microscopic micelles that can cross the intestinal lining. There, they're reassembled into triglycerides and packed into chylomicrons, special transport packages that first enter the lymphatic system and only later the bloodstream. This way, fat-derived energy bypasses the liver at first and reaches the tissues that need high-density fuel. Vitamins and minerals also play by their own rules. Some, like vitamin C and most B vitamins, pass directly into the blood. Others, the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and E, require microscopic fat structures for transport. Trace minerals and electrolytes are captured with remarkable precision in dedicated sections of the intestine, ensuring the body rarely loses anything valuable. The entire process is fast, yet perfectly synchronized. Every intestinal cell responds to the presence of food, adjusting blood flow and transporter activity. That's why after a well-digested meal, you feel nourished and energized. Your body has absorbed exactly what it needed, without waste or overload. Absorption in the small intestine is not just chemistry. It is a delicate orchestra in which every enzyme, every villus, every peristaltic wave plays a specific role. Without it, even the best diet would remain a mixture of unprocessed ingredients. Thanks to this mechanism, food becomes energy, structure, and communication for the entire body, from muscles to the brain. After the intensive work of the small intestine, the digestive mass enters the large intestine, a place many imagine as the end of the line, but which is actually one of the most crucial segments of the entire digestive system. Here, there's no large-scale nutrient absorption, but a process that determines the balance of the whole body, reclaiming water and electrolytes and forming stool. The first stop is the cecum, which receives material from the small intestine. Here, water and minerals begin to be extracted, while the rest moves onward through the large intestine. Water is not reclaimed randomly. It is a precise mechanism regulating hydration and electrolyte concentration throughout the body. Even small delays or accelerations can trigger constipation or diarrhea. Next, the material moves through the colon, where true stool formation occurs. The muscles of the colon mix the leftovers, ferment fiber through the action of bacteria, and slowly thicken the stool. Every movement is controlled by the enteric nervous system, peristalsis and segmentation working together to maintain the balance between flow and the time needed for water absorption. The sigmoid colon acts like a temporary storage chamber. Here, material waits for the signal to be expelled, and smooth muscles maintain its proper consistency. If intestinal transit slows, the sigmoid becomes a holding zone, leading to bloating, discomfort, and constipation. If transit is too fast, the colon cannot reclaim water, resulting in loose stools. At the end lies the rectum, the decision point that tells you when it is time to defecate. Here, the fully formed stool is ready to leave the body. The expulsion mechanism is synchronized with the nervous system, creating a reflex that is almost automatic, yet partly under conscious control. The work of the large intestine is slower than that of the small intestine because the body must reclaim water and electrolytes gradually and precisely. A slowed transit has consequences. The material becomes harder, bacterial fermentation intensifies, and the walls of the intestine may react with inflammation. That's why regularity and proper hydration are crucial for comfort and overall health. The large intestine is not simply the end of digestion. It is a center of recovery, selection, and preparation for elimination, working with microbes, the nervous system, and blood flow to maintain balance throughout the body. Without its precision, everything you eat could become chaos instead of fuel for life. Now that we know the structure of the intestines, their functions, movements, and ways of absorbing nutrients, it's time to meet their inhabitants. These are not ordinary bacteria, but a vast, highly diverse community of microorganisms living in symbiosis with your body. We call this community the gut microbiome. The microbiome is not just individual organisms. It is a whole ecosystem inside your intestine, cooperating with the epithelial lining, supporting digestion, shaping immunity, and communicating with the nervous system. At this stage, we won't dive into the details. It's simply essential to understand that the intestines do not work alone. Every function, every movement, every biochemical reaction happens alongside these microorganisms, the invisible collaborators inside you. The microbiome is a vast community of microorganisms living inside your gut. And it's not just bacteria, as most people assume. It includes archaea, viruses, and fungi, each playing a specific role in this complex ecosystem. Bacteria are the most numerous inhabitants. They help digest fiber, produce certain vitamins, and participate in regulating the immune system. Archaea, although less known, help metabolize gases and maintain chemical balance inside the gut. Viruses, especially bacteriophages, control bacterial populations, preventing certain strains from overgrowing. Fungi, though far fewer, contribute to the breakdown of complex carbohydrates and interact with the immune system. Picture the microbiome as a city. Bacteria are the citizens, archaea the craftsmen, viruses the population regulators, and fungi the mysterious advisors. Each has a role, and cooperation between them keeps the organism city in order and in health. Your intestines are not just a digestive tube. They are a living environment, full of millions of microorganisms, each with its own function. The gut microbiome is incredibly diverse. Bacteria dominate. Altogether, hundreds of bacterial species inhabit the digestive tract, each playing its part in digestion, metabolism, and defense against pathogens. Not all sections of the intestine contain the same number of microorganisms. The small intestine is relatively clean microbiologically. The quick transit of food and high acidity prevent large colonies from growing. The greatest number of microorganisms live in the large intestine, especially the colon. Here, food stays longer, the pH is neutral, and there is plenty of substrate for bacteria, fiber, undigested carbohydrates, and mucus. It is the perfect environment for a vast, stable, and diverse microbial community to flourish. In the large intestine, the dominant residents come from several major groups: firmicutes, bacteroidetes, actinobacteria, and proteobacteria. Firmicutes often take responsibility for breaking down fibers and producing short-chain fatty acids, compounds that nourish intestinal cells and support immunity. Bacteroidetes specialize in digesting leftover starches and dietary fibers, while actinobacteria, such as Bifidobacterium, participate in vitamin production and help protect against harmful pathogens. Proteobacteria appear in smaller numbers and often function as a kind of internal monitoring system, though their overgrowth can signal an imbalance within the microbiome. But the story doesn't end with bacteria. Viruses quietly control bacterial populations, preventing any one group from growing out of proportion, while fungi, although fewer in number, play subtle roles in metabolism and in coordinating the immune response. Each portion of your intestine creates its own microenvironment. So the microbiome of the small intestine and the microbiome of the colon differ not only in size, but in purpose and behavior as well. In practice, this means one thing: a healthy microbiome is not just abundant, it is diverse and balanced. When that equilibrium is disrupted, inflammation can rise, digestion can slow or speed up unpredictably, moods can shift, and the metabolism of the entire body can begin to drift off course. Understanding where the microbiome thrives most densely and which groups dominate various sections of the gut helps reveal its true role in your health. The small intestine works quickly and selectively. The large intestine is a living ecosystem, full of organisms that cooperate, compete, and support your body in countless subtle ways. The gut microbiome is not a passive passenger that simply settled inside you by chance. It is an active collaborator, influencing digestion, immunity, and even your emotional landscape every single day. Its first and most obvious role is digesting the remnants of food that your enzymes didn't manage to break down in the small intestine. Bacteria in the colon ferment fibers and resistant starches, producing short-chain fatty acids such as acetate, propionate, and butyrate. These aren't just energy sources for intestinal cells. They regulate appetite, metabolism, and inflammation throughout the entire body. In a sense, your microbiome transforms leftovers into biological fuel. Next comes its work in shaping immunity. The gut is the body's largest point of contact with the outside world. Thousands of microorganisms pass through it every day. Gut microbes teach the immune system how to distinguish friend from foe. Strains such as Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus help develop lymphocytes, stimulate antibody production, and regulate inflammatory responses. Thanks to them, your body can defend against pathogens without launching destructive chronic inflammation. Then, there's the fascinating connection with the gut-brain axis. Microbes don't simply digest. They produce neurotransmitters and metabolites that communicate with the brain through the vagus nerve, hormones, and immune pathways. They influence mood, stress levels, emotional reactivity, and even cognitive functions. Imagine your brain and gut in constant dialogue, with the microbiome interpreting and modifying the messages they send each other. But the microbiome doesn't operate flawlessly. When the balance between bacteria, archaea, viruses, and fungi shifts, a condition called dysbiosis emerges. Beneficial microbes diminish, while potentially harmful strains begin to dominate. It may seem subtle at first, but the consequences can echo throughout the body. The earliest effects show up in digestion. Food remnants are processed less efficiently. Short-chain fatty acid production drops, and symptoms such as bloating, constipation, diarrhea, or nutrient deficiencies begin to surface. Your intestines work harder, but with less success, leaving you tired and uncomfortable. Dysbiosis also disrupts the immune system. The microbes that normally train immune cells become less abundant, giving pathogens more opportunities to cause harm. Low-grade chronic inflammation can develop, sensitivity to infections may rise, and the risk of autoimmune disorders may slowly increase. And then there is its influence on the gut-brain connection. Dysbiosis can alter the signals sent from the gut to the brain. Serotonin levels shift, neurotransmitter production becomes irregular, and inflammatory molecules begin influencing mood and stress responses. In practice, this may lead to anxiety, irritability, sleep disturbances, or problems with focus. The body and mind lose their smooth coordination, revealing how profoundly gut health affects the nervous system. The causes of dysbiosis are numerous: stress, low-fiber diets, antibiotics, infections, lack of sleep, processed foods, and excess sugar. Each of these factors can tilt the ecosystem out of balance, sometimes slowly, sometimes rapidly, and the consequences may remain hidden for years. This is why diversity and stability within the microbiome are so crucial. Like every complex ecosystem, it thrives only when its residents coexist in harmony. Dysbiosis is not just a gut problem. It's a signal, a message that the system responsible for nourishment, protection, and communication across your body is struggling. The encouraging part is that the microbiome is surprisingly adaptive. It can be damaged, but it can also recover, though not instantly. Antibiotics are the most well-known disruptor. They save lives, but they also wipe out beneficial bacteria alongside harmful ones. Diversity drops, digestion falters, inflammation may rise. Recovery after antibiotics depends on the type of medication, duration of therapy, age, and lifestyle. Some bacterial groups return within weeks, others require months, and some never fully re-establish without intentional support. The most natural form of support is a fiber-rich, plant-diverse diet. Vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds feed the bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids and maintain intestinal integrity. The more varied your diet, the more species your microbiome can sustain. Another powerful tool is probiotics, live microorganisms that support or reintroduce beneficial strains such as lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. They can accelerate recovery after antibiotics, ease diarrhea, improve digestion, and strengthen immunity. But they must be chosen carefully. Each strain has distinct properties, and the microbiome is an ecosystem where every newcomer must fit the community. Lifestyle matters as well. Regular sleep, stress reduction, moderate physical activity, and avoiding excess sugar or processed foods all help stabilize the microbiome. Stress and sleep deprivation can shift its composition, altering metabolism and immune responses. Even small daily habits matter. Microbes respond to your rhythms and your choices. An equally important element is the prebiotic. Food for your microorganisms. These are compounds that your body does not digest, but which serve as nourishment for beneficial bacteria. Inulin, fructooligosaccharides, and water-soluble fiber increase the diversity of the microbiome and support the production of short-chain fatty acids, which nourish intestinal cells and regulate immune responses. In practice, supporting your microbiome is a combination of mindful eating, probiotics when needed, prebiotics, and a healthy lifestyle. The effects are not instant. Rebuilding and stabilizing the microbiome takes weeks, sometimes months, but consistent habits create long-term balance. A properly supported microbiome can recover after disruptions, becoming a strong foundation of health, from digestion to immunity to communication with the brain. We often ignore the subtle signals the body sends. Early signs of microbiome imbalance or initial digestive disturbances. They aren't always severe pains or chronic conditions. Most often they appear as quiet, everyday symptoms that you can see or feel long before things escalate. One of the first signs is a change in bowel rhythm. Constipation, diarrhea, a feeling of incomplete emptying, or sudden shifts in stool consistency often appear before the microbiome fully loses its balance. It is the body's way of saying that processes in the small and large intestine aren't running as smoothly as they should. Another common signal is bloating and gas. Excessive gas is produced when bacteria ferment undigested food residues too intensely or when their composition becomes disrupted. It may feel like heaviness, gurgling, or light abdominal discomfort. These symptoms can appear occasionally, but if they become frequent, it's a sign your microbiome needs attention. You also shouldn't overlook changes in the skin and overall appearance. The gut is tightly connected to the immune system and inflammation, and microbiome disturbances often manifest as acne, dry skin, redness, or eczema. Sometimes the skin reveals gut problems sooner than the gut itself. Another signal involves shifts in energy and mood. Gut dysbiosis affects neurotransmitter production, like serotonin, and can result in sudden mood swings, fatigue after meals, or difficulty concentrating. This shows that microbiome problems aren't always local. You feel them throughout your entire body, including your mind. Sometimes the microbiome speaks through unusual food reactions, sudden bloating after certain food groups, new food allergies, or sensitivity to sugars and dairy. This suggests that the balance of intestinal microbes has shifted, and some digestive processes are struggling. There are also clues in changes of stool color or smell. Very pale, very dark, or unusually foul-smelling stools can be early warnings that intestinal function is disrupted, long before intense inflammation or infection appears. All these symptoms are early alarms. They shouldn't be ignored. A supportive diet, probiotics, prebiotics, and healthy habits can restore microbiome balance before chronic problems develop. It's like a warning light. The gut sends a message before things turn serious. Your gut has its own language for communicating with the brain. At the center of this conversation is the vagus nerve, a massive communication cable connecting the intestine to the brain almost directly. Through it, information about the digestive system reaches the brain in real time. Thanks to the vagus nerve, the brain knows what is happening inside the gut even before symptoms become noticeable. The intestines themselves produce neurotransmitters we once associated only with the brain. It's estimated that up to 90% of serotonin in the body is produced in the gut. This hormone influences mood, appetite, and sleep. The gut also produces dopamine, GABA, and acetylcholine, substances that shape emotional states, relaxation, and stress responses. Every meal, every bit of inflammation, every chemical signal in the gut is translated through these neurotransmitters into messages the brain can interpret. The result of this communication is a series of emotional and physical reactions. Too much stress can slow digestion, trigger diarrhea or bloating, and microbiome disturbances can lead to anxiety or low mood. This is why the gut is often called the second brain, not because it thinks, but because it affects your thoughts and emotions through chemistry and electrical impulses. The vagus nerve functions as a two-way bridge. Signals from the brain influence digestion, motility, and enzyme secretion, while signals from the gut shape perception, mood, and stress response. It is a subtle, ongoing conversation most people never notice, yet we feel its effects every day. Calm after a light meal, tension during bloating, improved mood thanks to fiber and healthy bacteria. In short, the gut and the brain communicate through the vagus nerve and neurotransmitters, and you feel the effects of this dialogue in your emotions, energy, and everyday well-being. This isn't fantasy. It's the science of how your second brain truly shapes your mood and reactions to the world. The gut is not just a place of digestion and nutrient absorption. It is a regulatory center for the entire body, influencing energy, metabolism, and inflammation. We often think of it only in terms of stomach aches or digestive issues, but its role extends far beyond local symptoms. The first area is energy and metabolic regulation. The gut determines how many nutrients enter the bloodstream and in what form. Short-chain fatty acids produced by gut bacteria feed intestinal cells and modulate the body's energy balance. Microbiome disturbances or slow intestinal transit can cause chronic fatigue, glucose fluctuations, and even weight gain despite a stable diet. The intestines are a quiet regulator of energy, independent of calorie intake. Another major aspect is inflammation. The gut is the body's largest interface with the outside world, encountering antigens, bacteria, and toxins daily. When the microbiome is disrupted, low-grade chronic inflammation can develop, spreading beyond the gut. This type of inflammation is linked to metabolic disorders, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, and even depression. In other words, the gut can be the epicenter of inflammation that extends throughout the body. There is also a key difference between digestive symptoms and systemic symptoms. Gut problems don't always manifest as abdominal pain, bloating, or bowel changes. Sometimes the signals are subtle: fatigue, mood fluctuations, skin issues, weight swings, or sudden infections. What happens in the gut can be felt in distant organs because the gut communicates with the nervous, hormonal, and immune systems. Systemic symptoms may be the first sign that the microbiome or motility has been disrupted. In practice, this means gut health is a foundation for overall health. Regular transit, a balanced microbiome, proper nutrition, and healthy daily habits support not only digestion, but energy, metabolic stability, and lower inflammation. The gut is not just a digestive tube. It is a command center that determines how you feel physically and emotionally every single day. The gut continues to amaze. Every day, it performs tasks most people never think about. Imagine that your digestive system moves around 2 kilograms of food and water through the body each day, from your mouth to the rectum. It's constant, heavy work requiring perfect coordination between muscles, enzymes, and the nervous system. But the gut's secret job isn't only physical, it is also a powerful chemical and hormonal center. The production of serotonin, the hormone associated with mood and well-being, takes place in the gut in up to 90% of all cases. This is why the feeling of satisfaction after a meal, your reactions to stress, and even your emotional stability are largely shaped inside your digestive tract. You could say the gut is an invisible, emotional control center, operating quietly in the background. The microbiome itself is a fascinating mini-organ in your abdomen. Bacteria and other microorganisms can weigh a kilogram or more. This isn't random mass. It's a carefully curated ecosystem that works with your body, digesting food remnants, producing vitamins, regulating immunity, and communicating with the brain. Every microbial species has a role, and when balance is lost, your health feels it, subtly but significantly. Your microbiome is utterly unique, like a fingerprint. No two sets of microbes are identical, and your own composition changes with diet, lifestyle, stress, and age. It is a dynamic ecosystem responding daily to your choices. What you eat, how you move, how you sleep, and how you handle stress. This means your gut health is largely in your hands because you shape the environment in which your microbes live. Some bacteria in your gut are older than you are. Yes, part of your microbiome comes directly from your mother, transferred at birth and through breastfeeding, and many of those first microbes can stay with you for life. It's a biological inheritance that shapes immunity, digestion, and how you respond to the world from your earliest days. You carry microorganisms that have been with you since the beginning. Some of them remember your very first breaths. And there's more. The gut responds instantly to stimuli, sensing changes in diet, stress, hydration, or infection, and adjusting motility, enzyme secretion, and hormone production accordingly. The microbiome and gut form a living, reactive organ that works in full symbiosis with your entire body, often unnoticed, but essential for life and health. Taken together, it becomes clear that the gut is not just a digestive pathway. And the microbiome is not merely a cluster of microbes. It is a complex, intelligent system influencing every aspect of your life, from digestion and immunity to mood and energy. Every kilogram of moving contents, every gram of bacteria, every chemical impulse matters, shaping an ecosystem that is one of a kind, your own internal world, unique and irreplaceable.